We all live in this sense of control and wanting to prepare for an event. Oftentimes we learn the most and we discover the most about ourselves when we're unprepared. That's the fun thing, is like discovering so much more about yourself when you're not prepared. Like, what version of me will show up? We all have the ability to have a world-class mindset. It doesn't take talent or athletic ability to have a really powerful, helpful mindset, because it's something that we can train, we can learn, we can just take on without lifting a finger.
I will have these conversations with myself where I probably sound crazy. And a lot of it for me was just negative self-talk. And I wasn't aware of it for a very long time.
There's one voice we hear our entire lives. It's our internal voice. It's a judge, it's a cheerleader, it's so many things. Don't we want to spend some time working with that voice, curating it, helping it, educating it?
What you're saying is we should be nurturing our voice and spending just as much time focused on our voice. So how can practically people start to nurture that voice?
Well, you're bringing up an interesting point.
Welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast, where we empower you to take charge of your health and happiness. We're Marnie
and Stephanie,
board-certified integrative health practitioners, holistic wellness coaches, and passionate explorers of all things mind, body, and soul.
Each week, we bring you expert insights, real-life stories, and practical tools to help you bridge the gap between where you are now and where you truly want to be. From longevity and nutrition to mindset, movement, and healing, we dive deep to uncover the root causes of wellness and vitality.
Join us and our growing community as we explore what it really means to create your art of living well in a way that's authentic, sustainable, and uniquely yours. This is why we wanted you to come back on our show. Because, we both went through the mindful minutes with you during 29029 training, and your voice, seriously, you're calm, you're grounded, you're motivating. And it's exactly what we both needed during that whole training process. And I literally will hear your voice in my head. I know that sounds creepy, but it's true. Even when we did a rim to river to rim hike last May, that coach Renee, it was Renee. Yeah. We worked with her on the side, or however you say it. And she helped us plan it out and whatever. And then Stephanie and I and one other woman did it on our own. But we would hear your voice in our head, one foot in front of the other and digging deep and all of the things. And we're okay, we need to have him come back on and just talk about this mindful training, because I think it's probably more important than the physical aspect, which I really did not understand when I started this whole journey of endurance sports, athletics, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, Chris has been on our podcast before. He was on episode 177. So go back and listen to that, and you can hear about his swimming and all the things he's done in the past. But we are just so excited to talk about mindfulness training and getting your head in the right place to do cool things. So welcome back.
We jumped right into it.
Yeah, we did.
Right in.
Yeah.
So I guess you often say that being an athlete is mindset, which is what we just dove in and started talking about. But how do you define mindset? And I feel like mindfulness and mindset, is becoming more buzz, if you will. How can someone, even a person that maybe sees the glass as half empty, how can someone begin to cultivate it regardless of their starting point?
Yeah, so let's go back to that first statement. We all have the ability to have a world-class mindset, right? It doesn't take talent or athletic ability to have a really powerful, helpful mindset, because it's something that we can train, we can learn, we can just take on without, lifting a finger. And so that's something to keep in mind. We can all have a world-class mindset without being a world-class athlete, without being an athlete, quite honestly. Now, a good mindset will bleed into other aspects of your life. So that's something to consider, which often leads to, health, wellness, being more present, all those things. But mindset is the lens through which you view the world with. right? And so if you take a camera lens, I know, old school here. Okay, not the one on your phone, but the true old cameras with a zoom and photo lenses. It's an aperture when it's wide open and when it's closed. It's just sort of how you view the world every day. And it's individual to all of us how we view the world, based off of our history, based off our experiences, based off of how we grew up, based off so many things affect, again, how we view the world every day, every experience, every moment. And that filter that it goes through as we sort of analyze what's happening real time, subconsciously, all those things, that is our mindset. And so often we attach the wrong things to that mindset, to that filter, so that we then interpret things in a certain way based off of our history, based off how we've been conditioned, based off what we've been taught, based off of past experiences. And gently reframing that with a pause, with questioning, like I just said earlier, let's take that no and look at it through a different lens. There's a photo analogy again, and think about that. And so often we're influenced by just however our mind reacts. And oftentimes we can just say, you know what? Wait a moment. Why am I thinking that way? Or where is that coming from? Or is that really the only option? Or are my emotions in play here? What's going on? Just that short pause can completely reframe any situation, whether it's in athletics when things are very hard and you're questioning your ability or your fitness or what am I doing here? Okay, well, let's just reframe that for a moment. Like, one, I signed up for this. I wanted to do this. I did enjoy a lot of it. This is sort of hard. Of course, I knew this was going to be hard. What was I thinking? Like this whole conversation in your mind. But that conversation, keep in mind, and mindset in general, there's one voice we hear our entire lives. It's our internal voice. It's a judge, it's a cheerleader, it's so many things, but that's the one voice we will hear until the end of our lives. Don't we want to spend some time working with that voice, curating it, helping it, educating it? And we spend so little time thinking about, wait, the one voice I'm carrying with me my entire life. And I yet so often I talk to people and they've never thought of it like that. I'm like, it's there. You don't have a choice. Okay, when you sleep, it's not quite there, but oftentimes it is still there
Coming
because,
into those dreams, right?
yeah. So that's mindset. That's spending time. That's the work. That's the curiosity. That's the education. That's the experience. And with that voice, it shapes our reality. It shapes how we're walking through life and how much joy or negativity we carry with every moment because that voice continues to be there, that voice sitting on our shoulder and so forth.
That is such a unique perspective and a unique way of talking about mindset. It's like you have this physical body, and we talk about taking care of our physical body and our mind, which but we don't, in our mental health and our physical health, they're like mind, body, spirit, different ways of looking at it. But what you're saying is we should be nurturing our voice and spending just as much time or equal amount of time worried about or not focused on our voice to help us get to where we want to be and to reframe those voices that, a lot of times our voice, I feel like, is a product of our upbringing and different experiences that we've had. And that's why some people have a maybe more I can do it kind of voice that, they can do everything or they're fearless or whatever it is. And others are more hesitant or, maybe more pessimistic. So, how can practically people start to nurture that voice? What are some things that we can do?
Well, awareness is the first step, right? Just noticing that that voice is there the entire time, that inner voice, and that you have a lifelong relationship with it and ignoring it doesn't work. We all know that. right? It's still there no matter how hard I try to ignore it. And that's why it's also interesting when we talk about growth mindset versus fixed mindset, right? There's all action steps down the road, but you first have to be aware of, wait a moment, let's start at baseline here. This voice is there. So I can either ignore it or I can acknowledge it. And acknowledging and awareness of it is always the first step in so many things. And then starting to hear it, which is acknowledging, right? Ah, okay, that's just a voice, right? It isn't me. It is a voice. It is my soul, my heart, it's my emotions, it's my logical brain. There's so many components to it. But each time understanding it better and better of knowing, what is it? Is it protecting me? Is it supporting me? Is it detracting? Is it negative? All those little insights start coming up with awareness. And then we start working with, all right, well, that's my negative voice. I get it. It's trying to protect me from failure, from disappointment, from negativity, from sadness, from embarrassment. All right, okay, that I can do that. Let's work with that. What's the worst thing? Then the steps come of growth and mindset, right? Of what can I do? What's the worst thing that will happen? You start breaking it into components, but awareness and befriending that voice, acknowledging it and realizing that it's here to serve me. It's not necessarily a negative thing always, right? It's just along for the ride, a long one. And going from there with whatever steps the voice and I, need to take. But yeah, well, let's start with awareness.
Yeah, well, so it's funny, I wrote a memoir that was published a few years ago, and I talk a lot about my voice in my head and how I sometimes have to, like, flick it away and say, "Get away from me, like, you're too negative, I don't wanna be around you," and I will have these, like, conversations with myself where I probably sound crazy, but I'm literally getting rid of that voice, or replacing, I should say, not getting rid of, but
Yeah.
replacing the negativity with positivity, and a lot of it for me was just, like, negative self-talk, right? But I feel like in the last 5 years, or maybe even 10 years, I've learned how to reframe that, and I wasn't aware of it for a very long time, so
Well, flicking it away isn't going to have the best outcomes, right?
okay,
The
well
negative, because it is there. You
right,
can flick it away as much as you want, but then it'll show up at times when you were least expecting or you least wanted it. It's not going anywhere. It's still a part of you. So I like to think of it more of, all right, just because I'm answering the door and letting these emotions in doesn't mean they're my best friends. Doesn't mean I need to hang out with them. Doesn't mean I'm like, we're going to dance, but that dance will end. So this is more of a question of, again, once I acknowledge all of them, that flick is not necessary. It'll get quieter. It'll say, you know what? I'm good. You heard me, because that's the main thing the voice cares about. Emotions in general. They just want to be heard, like all of us,
Yeah.
right? And once you acknowledge, all right, I get it. I hear you. That negativity is to protect me. I was hurt in past experience and I built up this wall or this mechanism to protect me. And that's when this voice shows up. Now, just imagine flicking it. That's going to piss it off, right? That's going to be like, you know what? That wasn't very nice. I'm going to come back when you don't want me to come
Right.
back and in a inopportune time. So this dance, this acknowledgement, this friendship, this, back and forth is very important. It's very important to start the process of, I get what's going on here. We're good. I appreciate that. Thanks for helping out. But right now, I'm going to head in this direction anyway. Doesn't mean we're not friends. Doesn't mean I don't, you know, believe when there's many times where you do help me, where you totally are there, where fear and imposter syndrome and nerves come up and you can work with that. But there's other times where it's like, don't need you today. I'm good.
so, like, I have a question about that. So let's say you have this inner voice, I'm thinking I'm actually running a half marathon on Saturday with a girlfriend, and we have barely trained, so I can relate to that just because we have not had a lot of time, and she said to me today, we did a quick little run this morning, and she said, "I'm giving myself permission not to finish." And I was like, "Well, why are you doing that?" Like, why are you even thinking that way? We are going to finish. We can go as slow as we want, but we're gonna finish this race. There's no reason why we can't run for that many hours. Like, I know we both can do it. I'm certain we can. And her mindset was like, "Well, I need to tell myself it's okay to quit." And so what would you say to someone like that? I'm curious.
Well, that's an avoidance, right? An
Yep.
avoidance of the weight that comes with her narrative of the quitting, right? So quitting is a negative to her, right? Because it comes with a lot of weight. And so therefore she's giving herself permission for that out. And I get it. But we create these expectations. We create that story. And just as much as we create it, we can also let it go. I'm out for a 2 hour, 3 hour movement.
Right.
Who
Right.
cares if there's a finish line or not?
Well,
Like I've put the well, I've but so for all of us, it's different, right?
Yeah.
But I've put those expectations upon myself that that line on that road means something that is way more powerful than it needs to be, right? Any race, any event, any achievement, we created the expectation and the weight of that. Right? It's just as good to be able to say, you know what? I did the distance or I did the time or whatever means me. We're creating expectations. And that's something so often to realize. Like, did I do my best? Did I show up and allow my best to show itself? That's what we care the most of. That's where we get the dopamine hit. That's where we breed success and build ourselves up. But once we put this heavy weight, this wet blanket of expectation upon something, a lot of times it doesn't align with reality. Right. And so in that case, it's always for me a question of, all right, well, that's fine. Take the finish line off the table and just go do, right? This isn't somebody decided to draw a line across the road and put a big banner up and say finish line right here. And therefore we feel like this, oh my goodness, it is amazing. And all this comes with it. Like, just think, like, if you really broke it down for a half marathon, a 10K, whatever it is, all the narrative we create around a one little weekend thing like that, finish line and friends thinking and time and over history, what a time means and what 13.1 means in general, and like how that translates to other things. And like there's so many little stories we create around a 13.1 mile walk, run, whatever, and a line in the street. Like, we could just go do.
Yep. And so almost what I hear you saying is it's more about the experience, whether, that you're creating for yourself and less about the finish line. And so if you
Well,
or no,
let's
or no.
it's different for everybody,
Yeah.
right?
depends on
Like,
your goals.
don't think that I'm saying you shouldn't have really hard goals or you shouldn't look for performance and all that, because there's plenty of people I work with where it's like performance is a big driver. And, they've worked years to get to a certain, result. And, this is at the highest level, of
Right.
course, but we're breaking it down in different ways. We were just talking about Marnie's friend in this case, who has it, the performance outcomes aren't as high in
Right.
that
Right.
For
case. Like,
purposes of this, which is
This
exactly.
is a
probably a lot
fun
of our
event for
listeners,
us.
Yeah,
actually,
and so there's times where we have big goals and we put a lot of pressure on, and those expectations are fine. And it's just I want to take the burden, the weight off and create clarity of our capabilities. Because the less weight we're carrying, the more our athletic abilities, our individual abilities, our cognitive abilities, our creative abilities, our musical or artistic abilities can show up. But this pressure, right? That narrowing of focus, the pressure oftentimes restricts that. And so, what works best for you, you individually? Some people thrive on pressure. I love pressure, right? To me, the higher the stakes, the better, because I know my best self shows up then. If it's not high stakes, I'm like, meh, like I'm sort of sleepy in the motion. I'm not as present.
What is
So,
high stakes for you?
in the meantime, it's turned to not danger, but where it's challenging. It's out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
High stakes is something that's way out of our comfort zone, but we've created the parameters around it that makes it meaningful to us. So whether that's climbing or adverse conditions or something really difficult or things like that. To me, also high stakes has become ensuring that groups or people around me are safe and guiding them through bigger adventures. So that's where there's a narrowing of focus. That's where all those things the flow state starts kicking in, because we're at the heightened sense of surrounding, challenge, skill, threshold, right? All those flow triggers start coming into play.
So, can we talk about adventure for a minute? Because Stephanie and I both love adventure, and what do you think about, signing up for adventures and just trying to like experience it versus we were kind of talking about this already. Experiencing an adventure versus like, having a set goal in terms of time or difficulty and challenge, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, an adventure is different for everybody, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a
Right.
lot of definitions to adventure, right? There's some that say adventures don't begin until something goes wrong, right? Adventures begin at the end of your comfort zone. When
Yep.
your comfort zone ends, now you're stepping into uncharted territory. So that's, first of all, the conversation of, okay, what is adventure to you? The beauty of adventures and self-curated adventures, especially where we sort of the person comes up with what the adventure is for them. So whether it's climbing or some unknown route or doing something completely unique, right? I'm working with an athlete that's wants to be the first person to ride their mountain bike from the Indian Ocean, so that side of Africa, to the top of Kilimanjaro and back to the ocean. So
Wow.
sea to sky to sea, in that sort of realm. And all right, so that's his adventure. Okay, so now let's start breaking it down. But there is no success, there's no finish line, there's no time. So we create that in an adventure on our own. What is the success? What defines success for you? What will make you feel like your best version, best self showed up? And then you start going from there, right? We have similar at 29029, right? Where it's like, your success isn't necessarily Everest or the Red Hat. It could be Kilimanjaro. It can be Aconcagua, the different summits that we recognize on how many ascents you've done. So that is a big accomplishment. So adventures turn into this unique aspect where it's like, what is the adventure to me and what defines success for me? And then we can start playing with, all right, well, is that hard enough? Is that challenging enough? That's not really reality. When we prepare properly, that won't be that hard for you. So how can we make that? Do you want it harder? Like, there's so many ways we can go about it. But that's why I love adventures, because the canvas is so empty. You're just starting with whatever. Now there's already adventures that are defined, right? Let's say climbing a mountain. And so, yeah, well, that we know what the quasi air quotes finish line is. It's back at camp. It's not the top of the mountain, right? You got to get back. That's
Right.
sort of the
Well, it's
key that
funny
many
because
overlook.
you said curated versus self-curated, and Stephanie and I mean, loved 29029. So much about it. The community was definitely like my number one. But I will say when we did our rim to river to rim, there was something about going on a big adventure, the biggest one I've ever done by myself, where I'm carrying everything myself. I'm prepared, with first aid and water and food and all the things we would need, which probably sounds silly to you because you're like this uber hiker, but like for me, that was like a very big
So
day
you
where
did South Rim to Phantom Ranch up Bright Angel?
And then
Tonto, we had to
Tonto,
cross
we clicked
Okay.
Tonto
over.
Because
because
of the construction.
Yeah.
yeah, and then up Bright Angel. So, I felt so, like, confident in my own self after doing that. And I felt amazing after 29029, but I realized when I'm comparing the 2, how much I had to rely on myself to get through the Grand Canyon hike, and that was such a cool feeling.
And we
So
didn't
it's
have Colleen or Chris's voice
We
in
didn't
our
have anybody. Like,
no
there were points
coaches
where I was
guiding you.
alone. They were
Yeah.
No.
ahead of me, and I was alone, and I was like, I was with my thoughts, and I had to just keep going.
But so you're touching onto something that is the foundation, the basis of a self-curated adventure, right? And that is you turn on signals that you didn't even know you had in your body a lot of times. Being out there on the edge, whether it's really the edge or it's your edge, it doesn't matter. The fact that there's a heightened sense of awareness and awe-inspiring grand landscape, that's a big component to a true big adventure where it's like it's overwhelming almost how small I feel in the grand scheme of this, whatever this is. And all those senses having to come into play, awareness, scanning the environment, hearing, thinking, tasting, touching, all those things. Everything is on. And when everything is on like that, we are truly primal at our best. And it's how we evolved being in that state. Maybe not 24/7 because we rested a lot in our primal state, but every day those signals got turned on in somehow, whether hunting, whether gathering, all those things. And so self-curated adventure touched something way deeper in us. And it has this lasting afterglow because of that. It's like, wow, I didn't even know I could feel that alive. And it becomes addicting in a lot of ways.
Well, that
Yeah.
was my next question, actually.
Yeah,
So once you have that, it's like, how do you translate that into your everyday life when you go home? It's really hard.
that's a good question. You
If
schedule
we're
more
not you, Chris.
adventures.
I mean,
You
that's
Yeah,
schedule more. You
if you
schedule
don't
more adventure.
right. It's like, how much, my family thinks I'm crazy.
well, it's finding the time and the people and, like, not taking too much time from your family but it is this addictive you're right, like and I think it's what you said, Chris, we're going back to our primal instincts. We're going back to, like, how we evolved, and it's something Marnie and I talk a lot about, just even, like, sitting, like, everyone sits so much, right? We're not tapping into those primal instincts with the average job these days.
Are you loving this conversation and want even more ways to live your happiest, healthiest, and most authentic life? Then we'd love for you to join our growing community on Substack. When you subscribe, you'll get bonus content and behind the scenes insights from us. Plus, you'll be the first to know about our upcoming programs and events. Your support helps us keep bringing inspiring guests and impactful conversations straight to you each week. So head to the link in our show notes, sign up today, and let's continue this journey together to create the art of living well.
True, but there's a big but. There's a lot of adventures in our day to day that are available. And it isn't this grandiose out in nature, but it's doing things out of that are not familiar to us, or going around your not neighborhood, but your surroundings and going to places where you haven't been before. Right. It's so often we don't even realize all the little micro adventures, as I'm using a quote by somebody in Great Britain. He calls them micro adventures. I don't remember, but he's a famous adventurer and, explorer, but he calls them micro adventures, and getting to know your surroundings, getting to know your county or your state or your area. And there's many little adventures, and adventures are sort of fun to have with your children and your family, right? Because then there's another primal aspect there of the tribe aspect, and adding that to it, right? The caretaking and the different, you turn on different signals when you're out there or doing something unknown with your loved ones, because your husband might turn on certain signals, you turn on signals, and the kids, and this interplay between all three, four, five, six, seven of you. I don't know how big your family is. It also is all part of it. And it's oftentimes when we get lost, right, as a family, or we're doing some things that are different. And that's what we all remember. When things go wrong, that's usually where the adventure begins.
Yes. And then this is where, Marnie's talking about our Grand Canyon hike where you figure it out yourself, or yourself meaning together with your immediate tribe or the people that you're with. And that creates the resiliency and the confidence to then keep going and to do something again because you ran into some difficulty and then you're able to come out and you figured it out eventually, right?
Yeah. But we have to be careful there that we don't just dive
Well,
into things. Oh, I'll figure it out. I figured it out last time. I don't want to sit here and put people into the things that is way above their challenge
agree.
skilled threshold. So, um,
100%.
but
I
yes,
know. I did a lot of research for this hike. Stephanie was like, "I don't wanna know," but I
Yeah.
prepared, right?
yeah. I mean, I took a few people through the Grand Canyon, 50 this year, two groups of 26, and
So someone that
one,
I know, her brother did that group.
yeah, and
Was
so
in your group. Yeah.
Well, did they do R3 or R2? Did they do the there and back, or did they do the one way with me? Because both
No, they
had
did
different
rim to
advan
rim to rim.
okay,
And
and
it
so
was
they
like
were
right around the time that we did ours. So late April,
April.
maybe?
I
We were
think it
there
was, like, a week or 2 before because I
Before.
remember we watched someone's stories, I don't know
yeah,
whose.
and so from that, like, it's great that you're prepared, but, for example, we had the unknown of how many baby rattlesnakes were on that course, right? It's April, everything is starting to kinda well, you went to Phantom Ranch and back. They're all sitting on the other side of the box as you approach the North Rim because it's a very exposed area. And so we had you know, a lot of them. And so, walking off trail and not being smart on where you're, getting off trail or even sitting or even resting becomes something to be very careful with. But again, that's part of the adventure.
No one
Where
got bit, obviously.
nobody got bit, but, it was pretty remarkable moving that many people through, and I had 2 other guides with me, and we had, EMT with us, and so we were in a pretty safe situation, but you get bit by a baby rattler down there, it's gonna be a long time before you get extracted, and there's a lot of concern there in that time, so again, just because you prepare and look ahead and things like you have to be ready for all the other things that can go wrong. And that's one of those times where you don't want to know the dangers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would've
I told them after
put me over the
how
edge.
Yeah.
many they ran right across.
Oh
Wow.
boy. I'd rather
Wow.
not know either.
Yeah, that's something I'm glad I didn't know that.
Mm-mm. I had not thought about that actually. So
Now you
yeah,
know.
now I know for
But
next
the
time.
rim's closed anyway on that
I know,
side
which is really
because of
sad.
the fires. Yeah, it's very sad,
Yeah.
especially that lodge and so forth. It is really tragic. So it's a
Okay,
bummer.
so fun question for you. I know you've trained and coached a lot of different kinds of, famous people, intense personalities. Wondering, like, what's the most ridiculous training idea or challenge someone's thrown at you or asked you to do with them or asked you to do yourself?
Well, to do with them or to do myself, that it's never crazy because I've rarely come across, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people out there, but in my interactions, I haven't come across that person that has said something that's outside of my realm of like, whoa, 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 no, I'm out. That's not something I'll do. You know, I'll get you ready for it, but I am not going to do that. So that would be something like for me personally, Everest. I have no interest in climbing that mountain. It's just not something like I feel like there's many other adventures to still do, and that's not one of them that I'm very drawn to. And I think part of that, and I know we're going a bit off tangent from your question, is the number one driver for adventure is curiosity, right? If it's a fitness question or if it's like discovering or it's a validation or an FKT, fastest known time. So that means you're looking for to put your mark in the sand of saying, I did this faster than anybody. That's not the driver. It's got to be curiosity. Now, don't get me wrong, fast times can be, I'm curious how fast I can do this, and I'm an experienced adventurer. And so therefore that leads to X, Y, and Z. But without curiosity, you're not going to get very far in an adventure, because when you're doing the hard training or the hours that you don't want to do, or you're not feeling good about your training, or if there's no curiosity, you're going to run out of motivation, drive, and all the things you need to continue to prepare. So curiosity is the big thing. And so back to your question, there's been rarely a situation where if I'm not curious, I won't do it. But, there's been some bizarre adventures. Coached somebody who wanted to be the first person to swim from Africa to Madagascar, which is 120 kilometers in the Indian Ocean.
Wow.
I decided not to go with him, as in not even go on the boat. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. He was unsuccessful. So there's definitely those adventures, and going back to, all right, well, the drawing board, and is that something that you really want to do? There's a lot of those conversations. Fat tire bike or fat biking across the Arabian Peninsula. That was a client with two others that I had no interest in joining. It's just not the political environment that I felt.
Very sandy. It would be so
Sandy,
sandy
and
and
you're
dirty.
crossing, I think it was
Yeah.
4 countries or 5 countries, and just,
Yeah.
from Saudi Arabia at the time to
Yeah.
Qatar and all those different countries. I was like, we're getting permissions from governments that.
Enough said. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so there's definitely angles and aspects of that. We have some ideas for next year. It's going to be fun. What we're curating, my
And when you
inner
say
circle.
we, do you mean within your personal training, your business,
No,
or
just
29029?
29029?
no. This
No.
is more
Okay.
with my client
With your
or my
okay.
friend Jesse Itzler.
Oh, yes.
And so we do an annual adventure of some sort or trip, and we have some ideas
Okay.
around that. Yeah.
So
We'll
let
be
me ask
very
you a question about some of these trips, whether it's with him or some of your other scenarios. Are there normal people like us on these trips, or are they all like high power, like athletes and executives?
So it depends which group.
and
So
be honest. Be honest,
yeah,
Chris.
I don't know. And for example, in Jesse's group, they are all pretty solid athletes and willing to say yes to basically anything. But let's say within our adventure club, there's plenty of people that are, just exploring endurance adventures, right? And that's what these are. They're endurance adventures. You can define adventures as, neighborhoods or different shorter experiences and so forth. But endurance adventures are usually out there somewhere. You're rim to river to rim. That's an endurance adventure, right? It requires fitness and aerobic capacity and all kinds of things, climbing mountains, being out there for many hours, overnight sometimes. Those are all endurance adventures. And that's my sweet spot, I would say. But no, it's just a question of preparing then. And so with that group, for example, we had 26 people just go one way. So the 22 miles from the South Rim to the North Rim, and then we extracted from the North Rim. And it took us a lot of hours, for example. We had complete beginners in the endurance adventure space where it took us longer or almost as long to do one way as the other group took us to go there and back.
Wow.
Wow.
So this
Okay.
isn't always,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's not always these uber
Well, and I don't
athletes.
think we're that, like, we wouldn't be
We're
as
somewhere in
well
the
as
in the
Yeah.
middle. Yeah.
Yeah. You did 29:29.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With some time to spare, thankfully. So I have a question going back to your comment about curiosity.
Mhm.
And kind of like you need that curiosity in order for you to like say yes, even though you physically could do any of these adventures that your clients have thrown
We
out
all
as
do.
ideas.
We all do.
We all do.
We all need that curiosity.
So it's kind of like the person that says, well, I'm not built for endurance events, or I don't want to hike, or I don't want to do 29029. Is it an out? Or now I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe it's not that. It has nothing to do with their physical ability, because I agree with you. It's all possible. But is it really that they just lack curiosity in whatever that activity is? And so can you ever help the person become curious, I guess?
Are
Is
we
that
talking
even a
about
thing?
a spouse in this matter?
Are you kidding me, Marnie? Are you reading my mind?
Well, you
spouse
could be
and a
talking about
daughter.
my spouse too, who's like, "I have no interest in doing that."
That's
Well,
and my kids too. And don't get me wrong, like I've come across plenty of people, and it'll come in time in that aspect, let's say with my kids, but there's an adventure waiting to happen in whatever you do, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that curiosity just needs to be curated to, well, I've always wondered. Like I use the REI store example, right? Where you walk in and you see those pictures on the wall and you sort of say, what does that evoke in you? Those big landscapes, those, animals or the fishing or the mountains or the tent in a beautiful, pristine location. If it evokes nothing, okay, we'll pivot. We'll find something else. There's always curiosity. Curiosity is the precursor to progress, right? It's what's, once again, evolutionarily spurred us to grow because we wanted to forage in a different spot. It created the dopamine system. The whole thing is from curiosity, right? And we were curious what's over the next hill, what's around on the other side of the forest. So something will be turned on. And it might not be endurance and adventures and things like that, right? There's might be a curiosity to how low I can get my golf score. That's totally fine. But at least we're working with something there. And then it becomes, well, how do you feel on the 13th to 18th hole? Well, do we want to improve that? That's called endurance. And so how do we endure? And then once we gently start introducing, okay, so do you like those long walks? Do you like the rucks? And then most of the time, the human in general goes, yeah, I actually sort of like that quiet time. And then we start building on that. And eventually I'll get them there. I get them all there, Stephanie.
well, I may need to hire you then.
I know.
Well, it's just interesting because you want to do things as a family. Your kids get older, and you're like, you could do more of this together, and then it doesn't become a taking time away from the family. And my 2 boys are like all in. Like we created Life Lists over the end of the summer, and on my life list is to do 29 with the 2 boys. And not that I don't want my husband and my daughter to come, but I know right now they're not curious enough,
That's fine. And that's
and that's
totally
okay,
to
right?
each his own. Yeah.
Yes. And so, but I don't wanna stop doing it because now, like you said earlier, there's something ignited in me. 29 was transformational. Something turned on, something shifted within me, and there's no going back. And so it's how do you strike that balance, I guess? Yeah, but I was curious from your standpoint if you've seen anyone kinda go from here to
Yeah,
here.
but that's allowing them to be them and
No,
their journey and their
100%.
time and what they're
Yes.
interested in and where they're growing to and where their progress is and what direction they're heading. And
Yep.
that's to each is individual, right?
And
Right.
And
that's really
whether
hard, I think, because,
oh
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I came home from 29 so excited, I just wanted to shout from the rooftops and tell everybody I know about it, and, like, a lot of people are just like, "Oh, you did what? Like, what are you saying? Like, why would you wanna do that? Like, you rode a gondola down and went back up the same way?" Like, they don't even get it.
And that's totally fine. That's totally fine, right? I like to always say in a lot of things, but let's say even in this endurance space, it's not for everyone, it's for someone.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Clearly, I need to find more people that are in this space.
Well, which is why the 29 community is so great.
Yes.
Because you could sign up as one person and be immersed in this whole community of like-minded people from around the world that you would never have otherwise likely met or been exposed to, and you're gonna have this amazing adventure and journey,
And
and
connection.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's all curated for you too, so you don't have to worry about the snakes.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So, for someone that's, not an elite endurance athlete, but just like a general listener to our podcast who, maybe wants to dip their toe in something, they're curious about something. What would you suggest to them in terms of their mindset, encouragement?
Yeah, well, first of all, listen to the whisper, right? That curiosity is usually a whisper that comes up. Huh, I've always wondered if I could do that. There's that inner voice again, right? And then tug on that string. Listen to that whisper. Okay, well, what's the next thing I would need to do? Not the whole thing. Don't overwhelm yourself with this. Oh, well, then I need to train and I this. I need to buy that. And like, what's the next thing I need to do to sort of tug on that string a little bit more? Well, maybe I'll look for something, right? Or I'll talk to my friends, right? Marnie and Stephanie, and just what would they recommend, right? Well, you automatically start taking that next step. But again, hearing the whisper, that curiosity, and following through on that, because this is the thing about the whisper. If it comes up now, it's going to come up again. And then we start going to the edge of regret later in life that we didn't do the thing that we heard the whisper about. And so it builds a mindset too within that, where it's like, all right, I'm following through on this. It might be a 5-year question, a 3-year question, a next month question, who knows? But at least I'm listening to the whisper, that voice, one of the many inner voices again. I'm not just flicking it off my shoulder.
Well, I was flicking the negative voice, not
I
my,
know.
like,
I
gut
know. We don't want to
voice.
flick anything.
Okay.
We just don't want to flick anything. We want to acknowledge everything. But that, and following through on and tugging on that string a little bit, because what you'll notice, again, this is the awareness and the acknowledgement of what's going on in mindset. You'll notice, oh, well, that was sort of interesting. I was sort of alive while I was researching that on the internet. Like, it brought up these emotions. Oh, that right there then turned, okay, clearly something is there.
Yep.
If it's like, ugh, negative, no way. Well, all right. Notice that too. And something else will come
Like
up.
sleeping in a tent. For
Yeah,
me,
well,
that's just a hard no. I just don't
yeah.
wanna do it.
So the Fairmont might work better for you.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
no, I don't need the Fairmont, but I
Well,
I don't wanna
it's
pitch my own
Whistler.
tent.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant which of the 29 events. There's some that
Oh,
have
well,
tents,
that
and
probably
the
would be a
others
hard
were
no
at the
also.
Fairmont. So
Yeah.
yeah. We have a lot of people that say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely my inner voice has been whispering, like, I need to have another event on the calendar. I've been waiting to see what 29029 is coming out with and looking at other things too, but it's calling me
Yeah,
again.
do you have any insight as to whether there'll be a new
Yeah,
location for next year?
right.
He's not gonna
Yeah.
tell us
I
yet.
Yeah, since
know.
it's only the 3 of us.
We can edit
Yeah.
this out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
There's that, as well as, for you, Marnie, I would keep in mind that, so I speak to this to a lot of my athletes, and that is, don't just go looking for next, because obviously just the next thing is a dangerous game, whether you just go further, because the curiosity is missing. Something has to come up where you go, ooh, okay, now that speaks to me.
I mean, Kilimanjaro has been speaking to me a lot
Okay.
lately. I'm waiting
So
to hear.
that becomes a 2-year sort of buildup,
Right.
right? So you're not going to do Kilimanjaro next month. And because you need the time and the training as well as the travel and so forth. So let's
Yeah.
say in a year from now or a year and a half from now. Okay, so then you go, all right, working backwards from that, what can I put on the calendar and in my life that will continue my progression towards that and build my confidence and make the journey versus just the mountaintop something that is way more worthwhile. And that starts whether it's Kilimanjaro or a 10K. I talk to people that are doing their first 10K or their first trail event or things like that. And it's like, all right, what now? Now that you felt that curiosity and that sort of spark ignite, all right, now where are the little objectives along the way that we can achieve that continue to ignite the spark and validate I am on the path and make me feel good about where I'm heading? Because too often we put these big, audacious goals on the calendar, and we forget we have to do the little things along the way to keep that curiosity, that spark, that fire burning to stay focused on the big thing.
Yeah, you're
Very true.
so true. So true.
Lots to think about.
Yeah.
When are
So
they dropping that calendar?
October.
October.
So
Okay.
it'll be
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah, and I would say in a month from now, I think it's like the 18th or something, or 17th, something around there. And then registration is in November.
November. I
Yeah.
know.
It goes
Isn't it
quickly
always?
now.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
we still have 2 more events in that time, so
Right, I know. I wish I could be at Aspen more than anything. It sounds
Yes.
so fun. I would
Yeah.
have
Because
yeah,
I'm
volunteered
very
there.
curious about Aspen to begin with, yet alone adding a 29.
and that's a
But
limited,
yeah.
edition
Yeah,
event,
so
so we
it's
will
never
never
happening
do it
again.
again, yeah, no,
Right.
and the team has a lot of unique aspects prepared for that event just because we'll never be there again, so
Yeah.
make it a memorable one.
I'm sure.
So, another event that's been it's not really an event, but that's been calling to me is I may be saying this wrong. I think it's like the Mont Blanc Trail or whatever.
Yeah,
Have you done that before?
UTMB?
What?
Yes, UTMB, so Ultra Trail Mont Blanc. So
Yeah.
there's the event, it's
No,
a
I'm not talking
100-mile
about
run.
the event.
Yeah,
I just think it would be fun to hike
and
it,
then there's the Tour de Mont
like
Blanc.
hiking to
Yeah,
huts or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, and there's some amazing outfitters that, that offer that it's a hut-to-hut experience. It's 100 miles, it's actually 103, I think, and it's that whole valley from Chamonix via Courmayeur and back to Chamonix, and it is beautiful up there.
So
Beautiful.
that would be a very
Yeah.
different kind of experience that also is calling to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, and so part of that is the visual aspect, and then what we do with that visual aspect of then that becomes the postcard in our mind that we train and prepare for because we want that postcard to unfold the way we have envisioned. I mean, up there in the mountains, these amazing huts, this beautiful weather, the vistas, and the whole thing. So you paint the picture. So that's one way of visualization for in coaching and in success that you envision the experience as it's happening. um, then you can envision the finish line for other events, but those are the ways to go about it. But that's what keeps us driven throughout the training when it's rainy and you don't want to go on that ruck and it's cold in Minnesota. You close your eyes and you see that, and that gets you out the door, right? So very popular and beautiful adventure. Agreed.
Okay. Good to have a list.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
The list is also
The
one of
world
those.
is infinite.
yes, it
It
is.
is. It is, but it doesn't. Again, the message here that it shouldn't always be this huge, 1 year, 2 year, once annually, once every 2, 3 years thing. There's an adventure, and I call it discomfort, awaiting with us every
Right.
day.
Right outside
Right?
your door. Yeah.
Exactly. And doing something, taking a different path, walking to and
Mhm.
from work, driving a different way home, discovering your area, having to navigate without your iPhone, without Google Maps, and just turning on the navigational aspects of your brain. And notice when people do that, they're always like, wow, that was exciting. Yeah, because again, a very primal thing to go do that. So there's thousands of little micro decisions we make every day that allows us to move into an area where it's like, oh, I'm not just following the path, the routine, the same day to day. And every time you do that, you're lighting little things up. And you do that enough, it changes the way your day unfolds.
I think that what you just said, Chris, is one of the most powerful things you said during this entire conversation that every single person can take away and start doing immediately. Thank you for that.
And thank you so much for coming on our show. I know we have to wrap this up. And so, where can listeners connect with you? I know you have a Substack.
Yeah, I'm
You're
all over the board. Yeah, I
you're
have a
sometimes
Substack.
podcast, or are you regularly podcasting?
No, no. I
Okay.
sometimes podcast. I sometimes write on Substack. I sometimes, uh, just
But
because
you
again,
always lead adventures, right?
I always lead
Yeah.
adventures. I'm always in that space. I have a couple lined up for next year that I do mostly with my athletes. My athletes are the first circle that get access to the adventures. Then I go to past athletes. Then I go to sort of social media and people in there or Substack, and then open to anybody. But that rarely comes up that there's still spots available because I only take about 20 people on my own. Just because I feel like from a community and getting to know each other and walking away, like you said, with these new friends. I think 20 for me and our somewhat extreme adventures. For example, next year we're doing this event that I self-curated. It's Coast to Cactus to Clouds. So we'll start at the coast in Southern California, ride our bikes to Palm Springs, spend the night, and the next day do the hardest one-day hike in
Yeah.
America, Cactus to Clouds.
So, okay, personal question about that, Cactus to Clouds. So
Yeah.
my parents winter in Palm Springs, and I've been reading about this hike. Do you think that's something that I could manage after doing 29029? I've heard it's pretty intense.
It is very intense. It is a hard hike. But yeah, of course you can. With the right preparation, Marnie.
I might have
But-
to do that this winter.
So
Stephanie,
the
you should
danger,
come join me.
the winter is
available.
challenging
Oh,
because of the
really?
snow, right? It
Okay.
goes to
Oh.
10:3. It goes to 10:6 actually.
Okay.
And you start at the cactus on the desert level. So it might be nice and warm there. So there's windows like October and early November. And then March, April.
Oh,
Otherwise, it
okay.
gets
Well,
too
March,
hot too.
maybe.
So you got to
All right.
know the weather and
the
the
sweet
snow levels. Otherwise, up there, it's very slippery up there
Okay.
on certain
Okay.
spots.
Yeah.
And the
This is good
rangers will close
information.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
So
But spring, you're saying early April is still good.
April can work well. Depends
Yeah.
on the snowpack for the year. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
It's a
well,
true adventure.
that
Okay.
could be a good
That could be
wait,
good.
because we'd have a place to stay,
Yeah.
and it would be pretty easy to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And not too hard to get there either.
No,
Okay.
it's
Well,
so
thank you
easy.
for that. Yeah. Okay,
Um,
Chris, we know we asked you and Emily this last time you guys were on our show, but our final question is, what does the art of living well mean to you?
The art of living well to me is a lot of what we talked about today with regards to mindset and continuing to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And it does not always need to be physical, right? What hard conversations are you having? Where is your comfort zone? And how can you just step gently beyond that so that you're expanding? If you think of yourself as the comfort zone of a box that you're living in, how do you expand that box? Right. And so often we think about comfort zone as, oh, I'm good here. But that routine and that comfort zone, those walls go higher and higher, and it becomes a jail after a while if we don't step out of it. And so constantly asking yourself that question, how am I progressing and how am I growing? Because that's what, once you step out of the box, you're expanding, i.e. you're growing. And that's where the human in general is happiest, with progress. Mental health becomes a question when we no longer progress in many aspects in our lives. And so living well is that growth, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, hopefully both. But yeah, that's living well.
I think that's so beautiful and true. And when I think about people that I know that are having some mental health issues, I think a lot of that is very relevant.
I agree. And I don't think anyone has ever articulated it like that before. And not just the response to the question, I'm saying in general, drawn any parallel between mental health and this concept of living in your comfort zone and growth and getting outside of your bubble, if you will.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much, like Chris said earlier, to get outside your bubble. We're talking about getting outside your house and going somewhere different today,
Yeah.
Driving a
walk.
different route, right?
Yeah.
Walking a
A
different
morning
route.
walk.
Yeah.
Alone for a lot of people. They just don't want to get up earlier. And next thing you know, right?
Right.
Yep. Well, thank you so much.
Of course.
Hopefully we'll see you sometime in 26 at some fun adventure.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'd be-
And say hi to Emily. from
I will.
us,
Yeah.
I will. For
and
sure.
have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to the Art of Living Well podcast. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps more people discover our show.
And if you're ready to take your health and happiness to the next level, we would love to support you. Whether it's through our transformative group programs, personalized coaching, or functional medicine lab testing, we help uncover the root causes of your health challenges and unlock your vitality.
Visit www.theartoflivingwell.us to learn more and book a free discovery call. Until next time, keep creating your art of living well.